Hey, it's Mick. Real quick, 2 upcoming events you might want to know about. First, March 3rd will be the 150th anniversary of the Kentucky Meat Shower, which is awesome. So on October 28th, the Saturday before, I will be joining friends in Owingsville, Kentucky, which is in Bath County, home of the Meat Shower of 1876. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, yeah, I get it. But I've done a bunch of episodes, 2 episodes actually, on it. So I encourage you to go find that. I also wrote the children's book, The Meat Shower. So if you would like to get a copy of that, you can find it, links to it at thepastandthecurious.com. Anyway, on the 28th of February, I will be in Owingsville, which is the city that is hosting the anniversary party from 1 to 5. I'll be reading at the library and hanging out and enjoying the general weirdness, which is going to run aplenty, I think. There will be a happening. I can't really tell you more, but I am 100% going to be outside around 3:30 p.m. If you don't have the kids' book that I wrote or you want to know more about it, links all over the website, thepastandthecurious.com. Okay, the other thing. On April 26th, I will be back in Boston for the mega awesome, super wicked, huge fun podcast Playdate. Sunday, April 26th at noon. That's me. Super excited. I got a whole new performance planned with toys, extinct flowers, and general historical goofiness. And if you're near Boston, you got to come party with me. If you are thinking of traveling to Boston, let me tell you, I love that city. And in April, it is gorgeous. And since it's the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Boston is going to have so much cool stuff to see and do that time. I know, in addition to the performance on Sunday, I'm going to do things like go visit the USS Constitution. I need to get some pictures of the Phyllis Wheatley statue on Commonwealth Ave. And I'm going to visit the Old North Church for sure. From there, who knows? I'm telling you, Boston is awesome. I'm going to make it my oyster. You could make it your oyster too. And by the way, there are a lot of oysters in Boston.
Serial killers, strange disappearances, unexplained mysteries, terrible disasters. I'm Nate Hale, and in my show, The Conspirators, I'm here to tell you all the stories from history your teacher never told you about. Hear the real story behind the Bermuda Triangle, or about the serial killer operating in Nazi-occupied Paris, or what dark secret lurked within the walls of a Scottish castle. Listen to The Conspirators on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Welcome to The Past and the Curious. My name is Mick Sullivan, and I want you to know that as this episode comes out, my family is on our way to the 150th anniversary celebration of the Kentucky Meat Shower. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you should listen to episode 90. I wrote a book about it. It's a big deal. Anyway, speaking of some cool news, this is really great. I have been writing another book. This book is about animals and history. You know, things like Benjamin Franklin's gift of a pet squirrel, Mr. Blobby, even a cockroach that went into space. It's really fun. I had hoped that a big publisher would want it, but that's a tough market, and they do not. But I believe in it, and I'm not going to let that stop me. So my friends at Heart Ally Press are going to help me publish it, but I'm going to need to raise funds before that happens. So we'll be launching a Kickstarter, and I could use your support. If you've ever wanted to help the show, this will be a great chance to do so. In the meantime, though, here's the best news. I'll be releasing parts of the book as in-between episodes starting in just 2 weeks. People always ask for more of The Past and the Curious, so here you go. You may remember when I did the Underwear Chronicles, which was when I launched my last book, I See Lincoln's Underpants. This will be a lot like that. So a short collection of stories from the new upcoming book will be released as a shorter episode in between the full monthly episodes. So there's more. In just 2 weeks, you're going to hear some new animal tales, which I am really excited about. I can't wait to share the stories of momentous animals in history with you. So I say, let's call it the Animals in History Chronicles. Look for the Animals in History Chronicles episodes coming soon from The Past and the Curious. Same feed. You don't have to go find a new feed. Anyway, today we're talking about lifesavers, not the candy kind, but rather people from the past who saved lives. So let's just get into it. Enough of me talking. And here's more of me talking. So we know a lot about germs now, and thank goodness. We know that they can make you sick, which isn't cool, but it's cooler that we know, right? Imagine how much sicker we'd all be if we didn't know what caused sicknesses. Like, what if your entire class shared one water bottle and no one ever washed their hands after they used the bathroom? It's gross to even think about, but that's because we understand the importance of washing things, like hands and cups and elevator buttons, and doctor's tools. But, once upon a time, washing things in antiseptic chemicals was a new idea. And though the idea was based in evidence, some people just don't take to new ideas very well. So in the 1800s, as science was explaining diseases and infection, some people didn't believe that cleanliness would reduce the problems. One person who wasn't quite ready to buy into the whole wash your hands propaganda was a doctor treating President James A. Garfield. Garfield might have gone down in history as one of the most remarkable American presidents, but now he's mostly remembered as one of the presidents who had a really big beard and the guy who shares a name with the more famous orange cartoon cat. Unfortunately for him, he was only in office for 6 months, and the last 2 of those he spent in bed teetering into delirium. This is because 4 months into his presidency, he was shot. And today, historians and medical experts believe that he likely could have survived despite having a bullet in his body. The wound was not fatal. So what was fatal, you may ask? Well, it was the doctors poking around in his wound over and over again with unwashed hands trying to get the projectile out. It was not the bullet that killed him, but rather infection and germy hands. Those doctors did not listen to Joseph Lister. Joseph Lister? Dr. Lister, I presume?
The Right Honorable Lord Lister.
The Right Honorable Lord? Right, okay. Anyway, Joe, what's the secret to safe surgery?
I, the Right Honorable Lord Lister, do declare the secret to be carbolic acid.
Joseph Lister, a British surgeon who did actually carry the title Right Honorable Lord, was a major pioneer in antiseptics. He suspected that microscopic things caused infections, and in an effort to cut down transferring these infectious and unhealthy things to surgery patients, he started cleaning his surgery tools with carbolic acid, while also soaking bandages in it as well. And it worked, so he soon insisted nurses and doctors wash their hands in the chemical too. Overall, it was a big success, and the number of deaths after surgery dropped tremendously. Turns out, washing scalpels and needles that you just stuck into one person before you stick them into another person is a good idea. Joseph Lister's ideas on sterilization were so important that when a man in St. Louis marketed a new sterilizing chemical, he called it Listerine, in honor of the Right Honorable Lord Lister. And many of us still use that today as a version of mouthwash. But Lister's favored chemical, carbolic acid, is pretty strong, and it created more than a few problems. It can cause pretty serious chemical burns on skin, and again, he expected medical professionals to wash their hands with the stuff. More than a few of these people were irritated, to put it lightly. Others eventually said, absolutely not. A surgical nurse in South Carolina was one of those people. Her hospital had jumped on the carbolic acid train because they saw it was better for the surgery patients. Her name was Carolin Hampton, and she was more sensitive to the chemical than most. This was too bad because she was an incredible surgery nurse, the best in the biz, many believed. Carolin Hampton had come from great wealth, but she lost much of her family during the Civil War. Raised by her aunts, she had no interest in getting married to a wealthy planter or playing the role of wife. That is what they expected. But she wanted to get her hands dirty. Literally. She moved to New York City and went to school for nursing. After graduating, she settled in Baltimore, Maryland, and worked at Johns Hopkins Hospital. There, she became the chief nurse of the operating room. Now, this was around 1889, so Joseph Lister's ideas were known, and many doctors agreed with them. Dr. Halsted, the doctor she worked with in the surgery room, agreed with the ideas more than most. He asked that everyone in the surgery room clean their hands with a very specific series of washings and chemicals. He thought it would be ideal for everyone. Was he right? He was worse than right. He was wrong. Now, okay, to be fair, it was great for the person on the surgery table, but for Carolin Hampton, it was not great. The chemicals irritated her skin very, very badly, and the pain got so severe for her that she realized she wasn't going to be able to continue doing her job. It would be a shame to quit, but if the skin on her hands couldn't handle the cleaning process without tremendous and lasting pain, what other option did she really have? Dr. Halsted hated this. He didn't want to lose her. She was far too talented. So they came up with an idea. Rubber gloves. But this was yet another new idea. There were no rubber gloves at this point in time, so they had to start from scratch. Carolin stuck her hands into squishy plaster, which hardened, and this was used to make a cast of her carpus, metacarpus, and phalanges. In other words, her wrists, her palms, and her fingers. Then, using her plaster hand statues, they had experimental rubber gloves made to fit her contours perfectly. This was revolutionary. Her fancy new rubber gloves were not disposable like the ones today. They were reusable. They were also really tight. It took a lot of hard work for her to just get them on. But the gloves could be boiled, sterilized, and dunked in the chemical cocktail that the doctor required. As a result, she could do her job, lives would be saved, and there would be less disease transmission from unclean things at the operating table. And all the while, Carolin's fingies were happy, unirritated, and easy to move. It was by necessity, but Carolin Hampton was the first known person in America to wear surgical gloves. Little did she know that her skin irritation would help change hospital safety practices from then on out. One of Dr. Halsted's protégés liked the new idea so much that he started wearing them too, and then he insisted everyone else in the surgery room do the same. His name? Oh, he's the one they call Dr. Bloodgood.
Dr. Bloodgood, is that right? That's your name?
Yes, that's right.
A doctor named Bloodgood?
Yes, that's right.
And am I also to understand that you wear gloves and you wash your tools?
Yes, that's also right.
Is it because you don't want to get blood on your hands?
Well, I've always said, in the body, blood good. Out of the body, blood bad. But this is about more than just blood.
Good.
Indeed, there are other things. You might call them germs. I insist everyone in the surgery room wear sterilized gloves so we don't transfer those things that could hurt someone that I operate upon.
I see, Dr. Bloodgood. Well, that makes me feel all right.
As it should.
Inspired by Carolin, Dr. Bloodgood made the case for gloves, and eventually everyone adopted the practice. In the years that have followed, who knows how many lives have been saved? It's impossible to say. But the next time you go to the dentist, doctor, or even watch someone prepare a sandwich for you, and you see a glove barrier between their skin and your body, or your food, think of Carolin. Here's a word for grown-ups. February can be a tough stretch for homeschool families. The days are shorter, the schedules are still busy, motivation can dip. It's understandable. IXL helps keep learning consistent, focused, and moving onward without stress. One of the biggest advantages of homeschooling is flexibility, and IXL adapts to each child's level. So whether they need to reinforce skills, work through challenging topics, or move ahead confidently, it supports them exactly where they are. IXL is an award-winning online learning platform that fits seamlessly into homeschooling. It offers interactive practice across math, language arts, science, social studies from pre-K through 12th grade. And IXL personalizes learning for each child, keeping them engaged and giving parents clear insight into progress. IXL's interactive practice and clear explanations make it easy to reinforce learning during the winter months without burning kids out. Plus, everything is organized by grade and subject, so you can quickly find what each child needs without having to juggle multiple resources. And there's celebrations along the way. Awards and progress markers help keep kids engaged even during the winter slump, which will build momentum into spring. Over 15 million students use IXL, and more than 75 research studies show it delivers real results. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now, and the Past and the Curious listeners can get an extra 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at www.ixl.com/curious. Visit www.ixl.com/curious to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
Are you dreaming about becoming a nurse, or maybe you're already in nursing school? I'm Nurse Mo, creator of the Straight A Nursing Podcast, and I want you to know that I'm here for you. I know nursing school can be challenging. I've been there, but it doesn't have to be impossible. Sometimes the key to succeeding in nursing school is to hear the concepts explained clearly and simply, which is exactly what you get with weekly episodes of the Straight A Nursing Podcast. Each Thursday, I teach a nursing concept or share tips and advice to help you succeed in school and at the bedside. My goal is to help you improve how you study, get more done in less time, pass your exams, and feel more confident and clinical. And if you're already a practicing nurse, these episodes are for you too, because as nurses, there's always something for us to learn. So subscribe to the Straight A Nursing Podcast, and I'll see you on Thursday.
The past and the curious.
It's time for You Have 30 Seconds. And since we're announcing the new Animals episodes, the whole series that you're going to be enjoying in the months ahead, I have been holding on to this You Have 30 Seconds in preparation because it is animal specific. Ben Schwartz from Melbourne, Australia is going to tell us about a very important bear.
Hi, it's Ben from Australia here to tell you about Wojtek. Wojtek was a soldier in the Polish army who happened to be a bear. In 1942, Polish soldiers adopted an orphaned bear cub. They named him Wojtek, which means joyful warrior, and he became their mascot. In 1944, the Poles were being transported by the British Navy. The British wouldn't let an animal on the troop ship, so the Poles enlisted Wojtek as a soldier. Wojtek learned to carry boxes of artillery shells in his paws. He helped defeat the Germans in the famous Battle of Monte Cassino. He survived the war and became a national hero. Thanks, Mick. Bye.
Oh, Ben, thank you so much. It was great to hear this. That's a great story. I've always loved the story of Wojtek. And it's great to hear from you in Australia. Hello to you from Kentucky. I have gotten a lot of You Have 30 Seconds in the last couple weeks, which is really exciting. Keep sending them, because even if you send me one that's not animal specific, I'm going to go ahead and put You Have 30 Seconds in the animal episodes because I want to share what you all are sending. And I'm excited about that. So if that sounds good to you, you can record your You Have 30 Seconds and email it to me at hello@thepastandthecurious.com.
It's quiz time. It's quiz time. It's quiz time. Time.
Okay, in Cleveland, Ohio, in 1912, candy maker Clarence Crane was looking for a candy to sell in the hot summer that wouldn't melt like chocolate. So he developed an affordable mint that he called, what else? Lifesavers. What were they named for? With the hole punched through the center of the candy, he thought that they resembled little life preservers, the ones you might find on a boat maybe they were fresh on his mind because the Titanic, famously without enough life preservers, sank that same year. Question number 2. In 1916, also in Cleveland, Ohio, a real-life lifesaver, a person that is, used his own invention to rescue 6 people in the Lake Erie Tunnel disaster. His name was Garrett Morgan, and we've featured him on this show more than once. What was his life-saving invention? Oh, he called it the safety hood, but it was the first functional gas mask in American history. Garrett Morgan was also born in my home state of Kentucky, one of my favorites. Okay, question number 3, and I figured I might as well keep things all Clevelandy now, so let's see if I can go 3 for 3. This one might be a stretch. As we learned from the last story, there was a president whose life was not saved. That president was James Garfield, and he was from Cleveland. This could be an easy question or it could be a tricky question, depending on who you are, but I ask, which son of another American president was with Garfield when he was shot? It was Robert Todd Lincoln. Y'all, Robert Todd Lincoln had a way of crossing paths with big people and big moments. It's amazing. He was with Garfield and kept the president company while they awaited a physician. By the way, the first physician to show up was Dr. Charles Purvis. Now, don't worry, Purvis wasn't the one who introduced infection to Garfield with unwashed hands, but he was the first African-American doctor to tend to an American president. And his grandfather, by the way, was James Forten. You might remember him as the Revolutionary War veteran, sailmaker, and black civic leader in the early 1800s. He's the subject of episode 88 of The Past and the Curious, if you would like to learn more. Saving lives is serious business, and some people are really good at saving lives. Richard Etheridge was one of those people, and so was his crewmate, Theodore Meekins. On the night of October 11th, 1896, a hurricane was battering the coast of North Carolina. The storm was so brutal, the rain so heavy, the wind so violent, and the waves so crashy that Richard Etheridge made the hard decision to call off beach patrols for the night. Not only was he responsible for the possible ships in dangerous waters, he was also responsible for the safety of his crew. He was in charge of the Pea Island Life-Saving Station. His station was one of many on the coast of North Carolina where lifesavers kept watch over the Atlantic Ocean. They brought safety to ships passing through a stretch of water that had wrecked countless others. Despite the orders to vacate the beach, Theodore Meekins was with Etheridge when the men thought they saw a flare off of the coast. Concerned that someone might be in danger in the storm and that this was a distress signal, Meekins fired off a reply flare of his own. If the bright light of the firework explosion was answered with another signal, he would know that help was needed. He peered into the night's darkness and searched through the heavy rain and the mist of the crashing waves. And then, sure enough, there came another flare. Someone was out in the water with the storm bearing down, and this was a bad place to be. The two men knew most likely it was a ship run aground in the shallows far out from shore. So Etheridge sounded the alarm to summon the rest of the men for help, and then he and Meekins loaded the mule cart with their supplies. Throughout the 1800s, there had been dozens of shipwrecks and hundreds of deaths as ships carried passengers and cargo along the eastern seaboard of the United States. All along the coast, life-saving stations were set up, not always around lighthouses, but often. It was important work to protect the many people and ships traveling along the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. And obviously, it was a job that depended on people who were brave and who were great swimmers, and also okay with risking their own lives. Richard Etheridge was a man who took on this role, and he was well aware that his crew had to be the best crew on the coast. So they worked harder, trained more, and were always ready for the job. Richard had been born in 1842 on Roanoke Island, North Carolina. He was enslaved for 21 years of his life, and unlike many of the black men growing up around him, he learned to read and write while he was young. By nature of living on an island, Richard was very comfortable on water. Boats, swimming, diving, all of this came naturally to him. As a believer in freedom and equality, the desire to serve in the American Civil War also came naturally. In 1863, he joined the Union Army as an infantryman and served bravely until the end of the war and the end of American slavery. By 1867, he returned to the North Carolina coast, where he fished and farmed until 1870. This was when he joined the United States Life-Saving Service, an organization which eventually became the U.S. Coast Guard. At first, Richard believed there wouldn't be much room for a black man to move up in the service. There were unfair limitations and prejudice throughout the country, and certainly in the American South after the Civil War. But in 1879, there was a terrible disaster near the Pea Island Life-Saving Station, and lives were lost to the unforgiving ocean. When the event was investigated by authorities, it was clear that the life-saving staff on duty had made some mistakes. So the man who was in charge was fired, and not long after, Richard Etheridge was chosen to replace him. The reason he was chosen was simple. He was the best surfman in North Carolina, plus he had the qualities of a great leader. Richard was 38 years old at the time, and he became the first black man to hold the position of keeper at an official government life-saving station. Most of his staff were also black men who had served in the Civil War and grown up on the coast. Obviously, all of them were top-notch ocean swimmers, but Richard still trained them harder than any other staff on the coastline because he knew they had to be perfect. And on October 11th, 1896, they were perfect. But Richard had his doubts for a while that night. As the men assembled on the beach facing the storm, their mule cart carried all of the life-saving supplies they'd need to get the people off the boat before the sea took them. But the prospects were grim. Out in the crashing waves and brutal storm was a ship called the E.S. Newman, a cargo vessel from New Hampshire. On board were 6 crewmates, the captain, his wife, and their 3-year-old son. Originally, they were hoping to make it to Norfolk, Virginia, but the hurricane had other plans for them. The ship was badly damaged and blown 100 miles off course before they got stuck in a spot that had been a graveyard for plenty of other ships. Thousands of ships have wound up on the bottom of the ocean, offshore of North Carolina over the years, and everyone was hoping that this wouldn't add another one to the total. But more than saving the ship, the crew just wanted to save the lives of the people on board, starting with that toddler. But there were problems on shore for Richard and his team too. The rough water was so powerful that the skiff they would normally use for a rescue was just not going to make it. The little boat would be like a toothpick in a campfire. What good is a boat rescue if your rescue boat sinks too? Then you've just got 2 boats on the bottom, and no one's saved. So, plan number 2 was something called a breeches buoy. It's a real shame this wouldn't work because it's kind of fun. The crew would fire a cannon at the ship, which didn't shoot a cannonball because why would you do that? Instead, it would fire a rope that people on board would tie to something strong. Then a large anchor would be screwed into the sand of the beach. And then someone would climb into a, no joke, pair of floating pants, sort of like overalls attached to an inner tube. Then they would hook themselves to the cannon-fired rope running from beach to boat, swim out to the ship with the safety of tethered floating pants, and bring people back to shore. Unfortunately, the constantly shifting sand and crashing waves made the beach anchor impossible. And Richard began to think the entire rescue was impossible. He and his men would not give up. The best swimmers stepped forward, and Theodore Meekins was one of those guys. Here's a word to the wise. don't swim in hurricane water, especially in the dark. It's a recipe for disaster. But Theodore knew that if he didn't try, there was no chance anyone would survive. So, with a rope tied around their waists, held by men on shore, Theodore and another man dove in and fought their way through the waves to the E.S. Newman. And a few minutes later, Theodore returned with the 3-year-old boy. But there was no time to rest. He immediately headed back out to the stormy sea. By the end of the night, every single life was saved. According to his crewmates, Theodore Meekins made each journey to the boat and back, with no one taking his place. After the storm had passed, a few days later, the captain was on shore, surveying the damage, when he came upon a part of the boat in the surf. Boats are typically given names, and it is common that somewhere on the boat, that name is painted for easy identification. His ship had been no different, and the piece of wood the captain found that day was the one with the name E.S. Newman painted upon it. He picked it up and carried it back to the station, and he gave it to the man who deserved it the most, the man who had saved his crew, his wife, and his child, Theodore Meekins. Richard Etheridge was certainly proud of his crew, but he knew that they had to get back to work. Another shipwreck could come at any moment. Luckily, he had a crack team. Richard died in 1900 at the age of 58 after a quick illness. He was still serving as the keeper at the Pea Island Life-Saving Station. Had he lived just a few more months, he might have caught a glimpse of Orville and Wilbur Wright's historic flights at nearby Kitty Hawk. Theodore lived until 1917, when he was the victim of another violent storm. The lifesavers of Pea Island were not immediately honored in their day. The captain's gift of the E.S. Newman nameplate was the only real recognition at the time. People remembered that Theodore hung it up on his barn as a point of pride. But today there are historical markers to the men, a Richard Etheridge statue, and even a U.S. Coast Guard vessel named in his honor. 100 years after the dramatic rescue of the E.S. Newman, the entire team was awarded the Gold Life-Saving Medal. Well, all right. Thanks for listening to episode 115 of The Past and the Curious. I'm Mick Sullivan, and I have some people to thank. First off, thanks again to Ben in Melbourne, Australia. So great for you to send in a 30 seconds. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who sent in You Have 30-second submissions in the last few months. I've had a lot of really great ones. I also need to thank some Patreon people because that's really, really helpful. It helps me keep going. This is an independent effort. I do not have much support at all, and I just do this because I like to, and I'm going to keep trying to do it as long as I can, okay? And Patreon really, really helps. And it also comes with a free, an ad-free feed, so that's really nice too. So if you want to get in on that, then you can find us on patreon.com. So I need to thank Desi McIntyre in Tennessee. Desi, I'm so excited that you are out there listening. Thank you so much. And I also need to send a big shout out to two curious kids in Longmont, Colorado, Bailey and Mara. Yeah! I'm so glad you're out there, Bailey and Mara, and I'm so glad you enjoy the show, and I'm also so glad that you are curious and enjoy learning. That's awesome. That goes for everybody out there. Hey, if you are looking for something to do and you are gonna be in the Boston area, or maybe you're thinking about a spring break trip and you're really into, I don't know, history, which seems like you if you're listening to this show, well, I am going to be live in Boston once again. It's amazing that they keep asking me to return, and I want to keep having great audiences, so please consider coming. It's a really great event. It's a 2-day festival. It's the mega awesome, super huge, wicked fun podcast playdate that WBUR puts on at their City Space venue in Boston. It's awesome. It's a great venue. There's some really, really great performers that are going to be there. It's a 2-day festival, Saturday, April 25th and Sunday, April 26th. Saturday will be Circle Round, Million Bazillion, and Story Pirates. And then on Sunday, Nat Geo Kids Greeking Out. They're great. I love them. And then me at noon. I'll be on at noon. And you can buy tickets at WBUR's website. And then I think at 2 o'clock, Grim, Grimmer, and Grimmest. So you can look on their website and find tickets, wbur.org, or I've got a link on thepastandthecurious.com. I sincerely hope you'll come. I'm going to do a really fun show. It's going to be brand new. We're going to talk all about the history of some toys and their connections to big names in the past. And I'm going to have a special guest. I'm going to let that be a surprise. But I just want you to know that it is a woman who works in science, and she has done amazing things, including recreating scents that have been gone, extinct, that no one has smelled, no living person has smelled. And It's a great story. It's got some great ties to the 1800s that I'm excited to share, and she's going to join me. So I hope that's incentive enough, and I hope to see you in Boston. And maybe I'll see you later today at the Kentucky Meat Shower if you're listening to this on February 28th, 2026.
All you need is a few minutes to start your day off with something historic when you listen to the This Day in History podcast. Every day there's a new episode for you to listen and learn about what happened that day way back when. So listen and subscribe to This Day in History wherever you get your podcasts. That's This Day in History wherever you get your podcasts.
We've all been there. You're standing in a museum staring at a painting and all you can think is, I don't get it. To me, knowing the story behind an artwork is a huge part of knowing how to look at it. I'm Amanda, the host of the Art of History podcast, where we view history through the lens of some really great works of art. Each episode, we dive deep into the bigger picture behind some familiar and maybe not so familiar pieces. Check out Art of History now wherever you get your podcasts.